Hey, everybody. Join me today, Gail Craft, on the Empowering Process podcast, as I get to speak with Franco Romero in this episode entitled Embodying Spirit. Franco, he's a top 10 bestselling author, spiritual teacher, shamanic guide. He's a speaker. He's just amazing. And he's joining me in a very casual conversation about our personal journeys. We're going to cover the power of words, the concept of healthcare, and the importance of individual consciousness in shaping our lives. Do understand that the content provided in this podcast are not intended for medical advice. It is based on a personal experience and is for informational purposes only. Welcome, everybody. Gail Craft here with my dear friend, Franco Romero. Franco is,
What's up?
oh my God, I love you, Franco. Franco is my spiritualist friend. Um, he wrote a book and he's got another one coming out about coming out of the closet from a spiritually perspective. It was quite amazing. He had a near-death experience very, very young, and has had these crazy voices talking to him his entire life. And he finally acknowledged them. They're called Caleb's. They call themselves one name so we can identify, but it's more than one voice speaking to you all the time.
Right.
And
Exactly.
how to get in touch with him and all that stuff will be in the comments. Franco, hello, baby.
What's going on? Long time.
I
I've been
know,
I've been waiting for this coffee date. It's been a long time since we've done one of these.
I know, I
You look
know.
great. You look
Thank
great.
you. You do too. Of course you do. What I'd like to talk about is whatever comes up. But what's been coming up for me lately these days, synchronicity is like crazy. My intuition is ridiculously powerful. My dreams are vivid. I just wrote an article in Substack, and I talk about one of my clients last week.
Hmm.
And I saw her buried in dirt. And I
Wow.
said, I can't tell her she's buried in dirt. And the universe made me smell dirt. And I'm like, how can I tell her? Yeah, bury yourself, right? And the universe made me taste dirt. And I'm like,
Wow.
okay, okay, right? So
Wow.
we're talking. And I said, okay, so I woke up this morning and I saw you buried in dirt. She goes, oh, I dreamt about being buried in dirt last night.
Did that shock either one of you?
No, no,
Yeah.
no. And she had gone through that kind of ceremony, shamanic ceremony, years ago. And it was very cleansing for her to let Mother Earth take her energy, to give it up. And that's what we're trying to find a way for her to give up the energy that she's been. And that's what I'm witnessing. Franco, the more I lean in, which, over the past year, I like, yeah, I'm in the water. I'm in it, right? The more clearly I see those who are mouthing the words but haven't alchemized the change.
Yeah, I love the word. I love the way you're describing that.
Right,
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, your you know your experiences lately, in the last year, have given you an opportunity to go deep
Mhm.
and look at things from a perspective that very few people get a chance to or desire to get a chance to do.
Right.
And you can see it. Yeah, if you go far enough in within yourself, you can start to see, you can start to separate what's out there, all the chatter, all the noise that's out
Mhm.
there, even in the spiritual world, in the community. There's a lot of good stuff out there, but you can kind of see, you can kind of tell what's really substantive and what really isn't.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rhetoric.
Well, I like that. A lot of
Yeah.
rhetoric.
A lot
Yes.
of a lot of rhetoric. And I will, when I'm saying something that is of that nature, I'll say something like, I can't think of another word, but it's blah. right? Right,
I
like
use this.
pain.
I use the same language too. Blah.
Blah.
Yeah. I have
Right,
all sorts of.
because what's here doesn't have the language.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of that it has to do. A lot of it has to do because the stuff you're trying to describe it isn't really something that exists in, let's just call it 3D.
Right,
And so you're trying to describe these frequencies, these experiences, these visions, whatever you want, whatever it is that you're experiencing. They're not really of this world. And so sometimes when that happens, you just have to create all sorts of different new languages like blah
blah.
and I sometimes use things like nutty patutty or cuckoo for cocoa puffs or
Yep,
really technical, very spiritually technical language, for people. But it is really difficult when you go through what you went through in this past year, and others who are going through similar or other types of adventures. I call them quests.
right.
You realize that where you're going into, what you're stepping into, is so foreign, so unknown, but yet so um,
Familiar.
familiar. Thank you. That that you know where you're at, but you can't necessarily describe it as well to others. And so you do your best. But when you see that others are still describing things in a very linear fashion, in a way that really kind of conforms to all the 3D stuff that's happening out there, then you know that they're not really going as far into their own quest as you would expect that someone who's talking about it should.
Right.
So
They
I
want
get what you're
to.
saying. What's that?
They want to.
Oh, of course they do. That's why you're right. I mean, it's not, my sense is that many of these people are genuine. They have great intentions, but yet they're not, if they're not going as far into their own personal quest, it's going to be difficult for them to take others there as well. People won't get that far. They won't
They
get,
can't.
they can't.
I can't take you on a path I've not walked.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right. I can take you only maybe to the doorway if I understand it. If I read
Hmm.
about it and I got training, I
Hmm.
can take you to the doorway,
Yeah. That's
but
about it.
I can't do anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
one of the things that happened during my time on the couch, if you will, um, and this was the most profound, and there was a lot of profound stuff happening last year. I sat there and I said, I don't want to ask you for guidance anymore. I don't want to ask you for help anymore. I don't want to turn to you in my time of need. I want you here with me every day. I want you to play
Hmm.
with me. I want you to laugh with me. I want you to sit at the computer with me. I want you to live and be here with me. And it is. I mean, the universe is, but I guess it was me giving it permission to make itself known.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of what I talk about, and for a lot of people who might be tuning in, like with you, that's pretty common the way you love to do your interviews. It's like you're sitting around just chatting.
Yeah.
Let's just chat. And I love that because we do kind of go off into just I guess practical or commonsensical or whatever you want to call it, the kind of discussion, just down to earth. There
Right.
you go, down to earth discussions.
Right.
And I love the way you just phrased that um, because really this isn't a difficult process, Gail. I mean, this what I talk about, what I've been talking about for a couple of years now on all of these interviews is that just we make it overly complicated. And when we um, when we get into situations such as dealing with extraordinary events, health events, or whatever, you really have two choices. I mean, you can either well do what you just did, which is says, you know what, let's just let's just come together here and make this a beautiful loving, kind of simple gathering of the two, of me and you, so to speak,
Hmm.
or we can do it the old-fashioned way
And resist it.
and resist it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then try to explore avenues that have already been explored and don't get us anywhere.
Yeah. And a
It's
lot of the language in the healthcare community actually makes you sick. I
oh,
argued constantly, I'm not a warrior. I don't go to battle with my body. I'm not a survivor. There was never a war for me to survive. All of those things, because if I'm a survivor and I have survived, my body's going to have to create something else for me to survive.
oh, wow. I'm not sure if I'm gonna assume that you've had these discussions with other people and
Yes,
in other interviews, because you literally hit it right on the head of the nail, which is to say that the language, the language that we use in all, not just in healthcare, but in
everything.
everything, is and so you and I had a brief little dialogue several months ago over text about this, and I don't expect you to remember this, but it was very, very brief, very, very brief. But we have injected um, words into our vocabulary that just do not serve us at all. And so a lot of what I try to do with people is to try to help them to become mindful of that,
Thank
be-
you.
because what I have come to realize, and I can look at this in various different ways, but I'll just lately I've been really involved in more because of the book that I'm writing and for other reasons. Um, I'm really looking at the alchemistic side of this, and people go, "What?" A lot of people don't even know what alchemy is, but I'll just say that from the way that I'm viewing it, I'm seeing how powerful our words are. The alchemy of the mind is where we're all headed into, and what that means is that we're really moving into a space of being aware of who we are as consciousness, and as consciousness, what are we doing to create our realities, and how are we using alchemistically words such as in spells to be able to conjure up. So I mean, I'm using these words intentionally to give you a flavor for how something that was once upon a time considered to be woo-woo stuff, or maybe things that you shouldn't be necessarily playing in. Those things are still here, and they're still very much active in our lives, in the way we view our world, and the spells or the words that we convey. And the way you just said that, the struggling, the survival, I mean, there were some of the other ones, warrior.
Yeah.
These are not, these are very, I'm going to use this very mindfully, distorted masculine energies. And these are not going to be helpful because, as you said, you're going to be telling the universe, or the game, as I refer to it, give me more. Give me
Right.
more of this,
Right.
because this is
In
what I
order for me
want.
to warrior, I need a war.
You need a war. And so so you're going to constantly be having a war, whether it's in your physical body or in your external body. You're constantly going to be waging a war, and that is not that. I mean, the universe will serve it up for you if that's what you want, if that's what you desire. Even if you don't desire it, it's going to serve it up because you are telling it to do it. and
Yeah.
and I I'm it's everywhere. It's constant. It's everywhere. I mean, people don't realize just what type of language they're using.
They're
That's powerful.
unconsciously manifesting their life.
Hmm.
And I know, guys, because queen of unconsciousness for quite a while, right?
Queen of unconsciousness.
Right. Um, so there are, one of the things we talked about years ago was, the truths are rising, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what's happening is I'm looking at these words, I'm looking at phrases, and I'm like, that's not what that's supposed to mean. For example, Gandhi, be the change you seek in the world.
Mhm.
That means he meant you need to alchemize. You need to become.
Yep.
that thing, not understand it. Because if I become it, I don't have to understand it because I am it.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. And that's not how it's been interpreted. So and so I'm bombarded with this stuff every day. I'm like, no, 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 no.
Yep. But it is so true. I mean, and it's one of my favorite sayings. I don't know a lot about his life or about, I mean, I know a little bit about his life and what he did, but I'm not like like in depth with it. But what I do remember going in as a kid, really young, and being really affected in a good way by that phrase,
Right.
and always wondering what it really meant in its total core essence. And then you just hit it. You hit it again. You have to be that thing. You have to be that change. And the reason you have to be that is because whether you know it or not, you are truly, and this is hard for people to understand at times, or not understand, but accept, you are truly the center of your universe, which is something you're not being taught. If you understand and accept, just for the sake of for playfulness, accept the possibility that this is a game, like many people who have near-death experiences will say that this is a game, a play of life or something, or a
Right.
simulation. If you can accept that and
Right.
just allow yourself to be the center of the universe, then you have to be mindful that if you are truly casting out words and thoughts and emotions that are shaping your reality, and
Don't be
that's all.
surprised when it comes back.
Don't be surprised when it comes back. And
That's
that's the
that's
alchemy part. That's
that's
the alchemy.
karma.
Yeah.
Um, and from a Kabbalah, it's judgment, right? But judgment is karma. It's you send it out, it comes back, and it's immediate. It's not in the next lifetime, guys. It's immediate.
Well, and that's the thing. There's again a lot of misunderstanding about terms like karma and what it's supposed to really represent. And I do a fair amount of that. I do a fair amount of just talk about karma because it's really tied to empathy,
Mhm.
and like you said, it's really something that you're constantly experiencing on a daily basis. It's not just bringing something from other past lives or
Right.
what have you. And so people have just a total misunderstanding of a lot of what these spiritual terms are, which then leads them to use them in a way that isn't going to be beneficial. Just like with healthcare, like we were just talking about, we have these ideas about how to address these conditions that we're going through, and it just creates a reality that is extraordinarily distorted, which is exactly consistent with what's going on in our world right now. So yeah, your quest was a remarkable one because you got to see that firsthand and see where the sort of the pitfalls lie in how people address their day-to-day life.
What it did for me, Franco, I when I work with clients now, if I haven't experienced it, then it's none of my business to share the lesson because it's not my lesson to share. So I've experienced this. So now I can share my lessons from this. And I have to share with you. And, Carrie, if you're watching, honey, I'm sorry, but I am going to talk about you, though I never do on these things. But I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of me. After what I went through last year, I went on a road trip, 7 weeks on the road. And
Wow.
when I do that, that's also another deep awakening for me.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I came back alchemized. And the first day, I think my daughter and I might have had a clash because, I'm here now. She hasn't had me in the house for seven weeks, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, whatever. We haven't had one since. And here's what happens. I'll give you an example of a couple of conversations. One, she's talking and I pull back and she says, Mom, you do that. Why do you do that when I'm talking to you? I said, hon, I'm about to give you my opinion and it's none of my business. So I need to shut up and let you find your own way and just support you. So I pull back. So I shut up. She goes, oh. So she was making stories up, right? And I was giving her space,
Yeah.
right? And then just, I think yesterday, I thanked her for showing up for me so I could have the lessons that I gained from her over the past couple of years.
Well, you
Because,
know,
go ahead.
um, you and I have talked a lot about your experiences with people, including your daughter, and she's been one of your biggest. I use this word loosely, but she's because a lot of people like to use it, and I'll explain why. So she's been your teacher, right? But what has she been teaching you? She's been teaching you, as you said, lessons. I would call those lessons of remembering,
Yes.
so that you're not only, obviously you're going through this experience with her and
Mhm.
and sharing your input with her, and sometimes it's been well received and sometimes it hasn't been well received. But at the end of the day, she has been there consistently for you to help you to remember something about yourself, about who you are, not just as Gail, but who you are here in this world as a spiritual being, experiencing, as some people say, a human existence. What is it that you're trying to remember? And these are there are various circumstances or things that you're here to experience, but ultimately you're here to remember how to navigate through this reality or the simulated reality so that you can remember who you are as a divine intelligence and how these people constantly are there to sort of force you into um, either playing the 3D card with them, which means getting distracted by all of the things that they're involved. I mean, they're what I mean by this is her mother, and
Mhm.
so you're obviously going to have a sensitive spot for everything that happens in her world.
I just want her to be happy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just and so ironically, that's the lesson of remembrance is that you
Right.
want to be happy too. And
Right.
so she is she's constantly going to be there as a way in which to reinforce that message to you, back to you, so to speak. She's your mirror. And so I call those people supporting actors. And just like in a movie,
Mhm.
they're here to do what they're supposed to do to help you to remember who you are at the end of the day. Just like you went through this experience with your health, that's not a supporting actor, but it's a supporting event that
Right.
helped you to remember that as well.
And
So,
it was huge. One of the things the universe has said to me to start that stop is stop. And I use this with a client of stop taking her candy. She
mm,
has a lesson to learn, Gail. And if you keep trying to fix her, she will not learn the lesson. Mind your own business. And as a mother, like, wait a minute, I don't want my child to hurt. But as a spiritual leader now, it's like, I'll support the pain.
yeah, again, there's a lot of ways to look at that. That's just the idea that you are allowing her to be is a big step towards remembering that your purpose here is to be able to shine your light on people in a way that serves you, and in serving you, you can then serve them. And so if your focus is on them, just because of whatever their circumstances are, and it distracts you from being focused on yourself in terms of remembering how to serve yourself, then you're not serving either one. You're literally not serving either person.
Right. And
Um,
that so I have a client who actually many clients who are either in this business or do like massage work or whatever,
mhm.
where they are empaths. And so I did a healing, by the way. I'll tell you that story. I was like, what? Again, doing what the universe is telling me to do it in my mind. I'm going, you want me to what?
Wow.
What? And in the process, I specifically said out loud, I am not taking this on. We are taking it out and throwing it away. And I literally stepped aside as I did it. Right.
Mm,
And so I tell these empaths, you're not supposed to take it on. You're supposed to know it's there, but get out of the way. Right? Do what pranic healers do and get a salt bowl and throw it into the bowl. Right? Do whatever it takes for you to divert that negative energy. And I don't even call it negative energy anymore,
mm,
because during my journey, one of the things I did was I healed myself by untangling the tangled energy. I called it
mm.
the web.
Yeah,
And with each strand that I untangled, it was a person or a situation that I forgave. And I forgave myself for co-creating the situation. Right. So it was, I
yeah,
forgive you for being an asshole, and I forgive me for being a jerk as well. I forgive you, right?
yes,
Right. But
yeah,
truly forgiving as I did that. So that's what we're doing, is we're taking that whatever muck is causing that. And so with my clients who say I'm in pain, or I have these scars, well, if I say you're not broken, how can you have scars? If I say you're not broken, then how can, right?
yeah.
So, so there's another problem I have with this industry. They say one thing and then say another, but it is stuck energy.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, what a rabbit hole to go down if we were wanting to just dissect the way in which we view healthcare. It just there's it's not really healthcare. I mean,
It's not, well, we know that.
let's just start there. I
Right.
mean,
It
we
it
we
it is
call it
it
health.
is support the pharmaceutical companies and pay the
Yeah, and
doctors.
but it's even than the what you were just saying. It's how can you call it health care when the language around it is completely supporting the sickness. Um, it completely focuses on the battles and the wars and like you
Right.
said, the things you have to, the struggles that you have to do to get better. There's no that's to me, you have to start from the view that you're not broken. Like you
Right.
said, you're not broken.
Right.
There may be blockages, yes, but if you don't start from you're not broken, then you're really having to do a serious climb to get to get
Yes.
to get healthy.
I
And
argued with people when I said I'm not sick. And they said, well, yes, you are. I said, no, there was a diagnosis, but I'm not sick.
yeah, that is so huge. That is so huge. And since so if you tie that back to our own spiritual whatever you want to call it, enlightenment or whatever, you have to start from there. You
Mhm.
have to start from who are we? See, this has been my biggest premise since the beginning. We strive in the spiritual sense, in the spiritual context, whatever, okay, whatever it is that you are following or whatever it is that you're doing, we try to get somewhere with this. We're trying to get to a space of peace and enlightenment and all this other stuff. And people don't realize that because we're trying to get there, we are never going to get there because we're telling the universe, as you said, or we're telling the game, I'm not there yet. I'm not there
Right.
yet. I'm not there yet.
Right. My job is to get there, so I can never get there because my job is to get there.
Right. And so you, from the beginning, with your health, took the approach that I am there already. So let's figure out where the blockages are so that we can get back to seeing who I am
Mhm.
because I am already there. I'm just
Right.
not. There's a veil right now that's been sort of thrown over me, and I'm not seeing what I know I am, which is what this is the whole premise around a lot of the stuff that I talk about because and this gets back to what you and I were talking about at the beginning, where there are a lot of well-intentioned people out in this space, but they're all trying to tell you that you're trying to get somewhere.
Right.
And if they're telling you that you have to try to get somewhere, then you know that they themselves aren't there, or they themselves don't view themselves as getting there, or been
Right.
there, or are there.
Right.
And that's fundamentally a huge reason why people have this disconnect with themselves, because they're constantly being told that they're not there.
I
And
spend a lot of time at the beginning with my clients over the concept of I'm going to get you out of your head and into your body. I don't, but don't name it. Don't name it. Stop naming, because that naming it creates the story. And I want to detach the story from the energy that you're feeling. Right. So this
mhm.
is the story. This is the energy. And then we can unravel the energy. But if you are attached to the story, you can't unravel the energy.
Yeah, and what's the story? Whose story is it? I mean, whose story is it? I mean, like you said, look, you went in and you got a diagnosis, yes, but the diagnosis is based on a story that was created outside of, let's just say, maybe the way that you would view reality, and so you have to either accept that story, which some people would say, of course you accept it. I just got diagnosed with this. I'm going to accept this. Well, not everybody does these days. Not everybody says, okay, so according to you, I have this thing. Okay, what's next? What do you do next with that story? Because what you do next with that story is going to determine a lot of the outcome of what's going to be your life afterwards. And I'm not saying that there's a mass exodus out of that sort of standard model of healthcare. Just as I'm not saying that there's a huge exodus in the standard model of religion or spirituality, but people are starting to realize these are not my stories. They're stories that other people have given to me,
Right.
and I've accepted them. And when you do that, you really are dealing with a slippery slope, because it's not, if they're not your stories, then how do you go forward with somebody else's illusions or delusions of how to proceed with your life?
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people get into a lot of spiritual ruts, because they're not really following their own story either. And that's
Exactly. And all of this, by the way, is in the book that I wrote, Lessons from Hell. I argued
great story,
with
great title, Gail.
it
Great
was hell,
title.
and I got a lot of lessons, and it's about the lessons. Um, I argued with every provider that I saw multiple times because they wanted a double mastectomy.
Mm.
And I'm like, there's not even a lump, guys. No. No. My surgeon was fine, but everyone else, I was like, by the oncologist, by the third time we met, and I'm looking at her because she's like, well, of course you're going to have them removed. And I'm like, no. She goes, we should put that in the chart. I said, please do. Will you guys stop?
Wow.
Right.
Most people wouldn't have, they would have agreed to it. And I'm not saying,
Maybe it's right for some people.
yeah,
For me,
exactly.
it wasn't at that time.
I just have seen way too many people now in the line of what I do, who have chosen not to accept all or some of the procedures going forward to
Mm-hmm.
treat the diagnosis. And again, I'm not advocating for either way. I'm just simply saying that in what I've done, what I see, people have chosen different routes, routes that for them make more sense, that give them more empowerment, um, give them a chance to have a say in the way that they're going to truly heal themselves. And they're shocked, and not that they're not really, well, okay, some of them are actually kind of a little shocked that they are able to do what they're able to do, but not really, because it's just all along they've had the ability to do it. They've always had the ability to heal themselves, just as they put themselves in that position of not being healthy, or something, or being diseased in some way. They have the capability. If they could get themselves there, they can get themselves out.
Yes.
With the same kind of same kind of approach that they did getting themselves there. But they just have to be now they have to switch gears. Now they have to kind of go, I cannot be, you said, you don't like the word negative, but it's the way it is. People are just, they view life in a certain way,
Mhm.
and it doesn't, getting back to the beginning, these are spells. If you use them with that intent, you're going to get what you get, and you have to be really mindful. Now you have to switch your vocabulary. You have to totally reverse everything and be super uber positive and empowered to be able to change those things.
I love it. I love it. So the miracle that I was going to tell you about, I was at a gathering of entrepreneurs who were studying this book, which was they finally stopped using the book. Like, but anyway, to enlighten themselves too, right? And I joined them and would do meditation at the end of their conversation, at the end of the event. So I did this really cool meditation where you have your inner child and you're playing and you go through a black hole and you come out like heaven and you're
Mm,
watching you. So there's three of you, the inner child, and the you on earth, right? So it was a game. Well, when I was done, one of the people in the room said, "I'm really mad at you right now." I'm like, "Well, why?" She said, "Well, I am in pain like I was when I was in a car accident, my neck and my back." And this is where the universe was talking. And I was like, "What?" And I do what I hear, even though part of me goes, "Yes. Would you like me to take the pain away?" And I'm like, "Right." And she's like, "Yes, please." So permission number one. So I got up and walked over and I said, put my hand on her body. I said, "Is this where the pain is?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "You would like me to take it away?" She said, "Yes." Two permissions. Then I described what I was going to do. Like I said, step aside, right? I said, "Would you like me to do that?" And she said, "Yes." Three permissions. So I was looking for three yeses because she's the one who's healing herself.
yes, yes,
Okay. So she gave herself permission and I stepped aside and I did see something come out, as did three other people see something. And she went, "Holy shit, what did you just do?" Well, my thought was, you just gave yourself the pain and now you just took it away, which is what you were just talking about.
exactly.
I was the vehicle that you used to give yourself pain. So therefore, I was the perfect vehicle for you to use to take it away.
Yeah, you see this in examples, in many different examples. The whole story about Yeshua and how he healed people who were in a sense giving permission to that healing
Right.
of
Right.
themselves. He was just a vehicle by which to sort of extend, I call it the surrogate effect, which is to extend that trust or faith in someone else to do it for you, but you're doing it yourself.
Right.
You're allowing yourself to heal, and yet you don't even know it. And those that didn't do that were the ones that he had the most difficulty in being able to heal or not heal at all. And you see this everywhere. I mean, in other practices like qigong and stuff, that you in that practice, depending on who you're going to, you go to a qigong master. It's an energy healer for those people who don't know anything about qigong. It's using it's moving or managing energy the way that you would
Right.
with but you don't use needles like acupuncture,
Right.
and you're basically giving permission, um, whether it's to a qigong master or ultimately to yourself, to heal, to move that energy around, because you're literally moving energy around every moment of your life. Okay, everything around
Absolutely.
you is energy, and you're moving it around, including your body.
Yeah.
If you can do that, you can do anything.
When I went to, so I used Body Talk. Um, and my practitioner is amazing. So it's basically what Body Talk is, your body tells the practitioner what it wants that day. Sometimes we worked on my kidneys, sometimes we worked on beliefs, right? And sometimes it was acupressure, sometimes it was massage, sometimes it was whatever my body said it wanted, right? And my first session with her, she said, "You're not giving me permission to come in." Because I don't, people don't have permission. They literally blanket, "You don't have permission." Okay, you have permission. You have permission, right? I'm that. specific in particular.
Hmm.
So I'm like, oh, okay. Bam, she had permission. So she comes in, she goes, oh, we have to close your heart up a little bit. You are giving out too much and you need that energy for yourself right now.
Mm.
So I was
Mm.
like, okay, so we did that. Fast forward later, and I worked with a sound therapist to take the radiation away. That was amazing. In that session, he's like, wow, I can come in through the back and your heart's wide open, but you're not letting it out. I'm like, oh, we forgot. I closed it. All right, let's open it. So if you don't think this stuff is real, I'm sorry.
Well, okay, so again love that we can have these conversations where we can bring it down to earth and apply them in practical ways,
Right.
which is what you're talking about. Um, the fact of the matter is, at a much more metaphysical level of all this, this is happening more and more and more. These energies, if you will, these frequencies, these vibrations, whatever you want to call them, are here now to support that way in which to approach your life, whether it's in health or whatever. It's there. And so even if people are still on the fence, and there are many, many, many more than there are that aren't, are on the fence that this is all just woo woo or all in your mind. I love when people say that, oh, this is all in your head or it's all in your
It
imagination.
is.
It is.
You're absolutely right.
It's yeah. I mean, I've been trying to tell you that's all in your mind, because this whole thing we call our life is an illusion, and it was created through our mind. And so of course it would be in our mind. Of course it would be in our imagination. Of course what you're talking about is possible, because that's how it actually works.
Right.
And it's not just you talking about it. It's not just me talking about it. I mean, if you're really into the whole research stuff, there's plenty of research now supporting, at least theoretically, that this type of reality, the way that you're describing it, I'm describing it, it actually exists. And you can leave it outside of the realm of spiritual woo-woo-ness or whatever. It's just, it's just a, it's a common, it's a common belief, if you will, now, to at least accept it as a possibility, as a theory, if nothing else. But
A
it's more than that.
working theory.
A very much of a work, a playful work, yeah, theory. It is. And the ones that are really catching on to this slowly, maybe more, some faster, are realizing that this really does work. And not only does it work, but it creates what we would normally call miracles in our life. Like your story is a miracle in many ways, because you sure you did some of the things that were sort of required, not required, but expected or recommended. That's the word I was
Right.
trying to say.
Right.
But you did so much more for yourself to say, no, I'm not going to go this far with what you're trying to tell me to do. I can change this. And sure
Right.
enough, you did.
Right.
Um,
And honestly, a few years back, you had said to me, Gail, they're telling me you're going to experience kind of like a death. You're not going to die, but you're going to experience kind of like a death. And you're going to come out the other side with the Christ energy, which we all have, by the way.
mhm.
But anyway, but with the awareness of it,
Yeah, the awareness,
the
right.
awareness of it. And so when this came, I was like, oh no, right?
Oops, I didn't mean that.
Right. And
Yeah.
then sure enough, during one of my meditations with the universe, when I was yelling at the universe, why this path? Why there are so many paths I could be. Why? I mean, I'm walking it, but I'm mad at you right now. And then I stopped and I laughed at myself because, I'm talking to myself. Right. Okay, so I
Right.
realized that I'm talking to myself. Oh, that's
Right.
ridiculous. And and then I saw the cross of Christ, and I heard you have to die before you can ascend, Gail.
Yeah, you really, I mean, I mean, just to be clear for people, it's not doesn't necessarily have to be a physical death. In fact,
Right. It was an emotional death.
an emotional death, a spiritual death, whatever you'd like to call it, it doesn't have to be physical. That's why, having having had the near-death experience, and people will oftentimes say to me, "Well, I had the benefit of having something like that happen, so that I can see my life and this whole reality differently." But you don't have. I tell people, there are just as powerful spiritually transformative experiences,
Right.
and a lot of those will have most of those will have the same result, that you die, you die to yourself in order to find who you to remember who you are, not to find anything, but to remember who you are. And sometimes those can be really intense, like what you had to go through.
Right.
I That's kind of why I kind of got out of the business of telling people things like, what's going to happen indirectly in their lives, because then I just feel much more comfortable talking more in general terms these days about what's happening in the world. Um, but yeah, you
But
do
some
have,
people aren't being quite so general.
yeah, no, some,
This is the
yeah.
year of the aliens showing up and the truth coming out. And
Well, so here, that's really interesting. Now we're kind of jumping a little bit into that, because it's all a big game. Okay, I mean, it's now let me explain what I mean by that. It's maybe the better word to say, it's a big puzzle. It's a real big puzzle.
okay.
Okay, and this is not just what I saw in my near death and what I've done in channeling, but it's there's a lot of things that go into this, but all of those things that you just said and more, way more, other narratives, they all come together. They're all part of a beautiful tapestry of a story of who we are.
Mhm.
And so, sure, some people are fixated on certain parts of it, and sure, there is going to be some more, let's look at the alien stuff. There is going to be more presented to people about this, not through government or any of that. But what I tell people is that we are now at a point where we're elevating our consciousness, okay, individually, as a group, as a collective, whatever. The higher your consciousness goes, the higher your frequencies go. The higher your frequencies go, the more you're going to see, even with your five senses, or feel, or taste, or touch, or whatever. The more you're going to experience things that didn't exist, or weren't visible to
I
you.
was going to say, there, it's here.
Yes, they weren't visible to you.
Right.
But now you can see it, or now you can hear it, or you can taste it, or you can touch it, or whatever. That's how it works. And this is a little bit more of a esoteric discussion, but it's not all that different from what we were just talking about for the last half hour, 45 minutes. You see things differently.
Yeah.
You start to see things intuitively, okay? So that you really are relying more on your inner guidance system to get you through things that would have normally been huge distractions and would have taken you down rabbit holes. You can see things. So I've been saying that where we're going as a human race, or maybe more as a spiritual race playing a human existence, is that we're really now coming into that point where we are going to start to experience a whole assortment of things, whether that's ETs, or whether that's supernatural things, like, maybe people just going online with, starting to get their own sixth senses online. Whatever it is, it's going to start happening, and it's going to start happening pretty significantly
I wrote
now.
down the word fear for today. People will be fearful and some
They
will be
will, or they
they
won't
will
be.
be fearful and some will be curious.
Oh
Right.
yeah. Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to be fearful. I mean,
Mhm.
because fearful is the way that we operate, or at least the way that we've been told to operate.
Right.
So a lot of people are going to be super fearful
Mhm.
of these things. I mean, we've got it in our culture, we got it in our social conditioning, that anything that's not normal is going to be considered to be a threat of some
Right.
kind.
Right.
And that's just the way that we've been programmed to do it. Just again, we can draw these same analogies to the way that when one gets diagnosed with a disease,
Mhm.
it's a threat, and it's treated that way as opposed to looking at a way in which to see it as a blockage, as you would call it. And how is it, what is it telling me about who I am and
Right.
how I'm viewing my world? And that, if you look at it from that perspective, the way that you did, it draws you closer to yourself. It draws you closer to this thing called the universe. You develop a beautiful relationship out of that experience rather than just going through the struggles of it. It's no different with the ETs. It's no different than with, the astrological things that are being talked about. No different than all of that. We're just getting to a point in our awareness. This is just what we were talking about with the Christ consciousness stuff.
Right.
We're just getting to a point with our awareness that we're not buying the narrative that everything is doom and gloom. I mean, there's plenty of it out there. I'm not going to lie. Okay. But I'm saying that we somehow trigger a mechanism within ourselves that says, this doesn't make sense. This is not sustainable. For me, it's not sustainable. So
Right.
therefore, I have to look inward to see what it is that is sustainable. And what you find out is, well, is what you find out, that this whole reality that you've been sort of spoon fed, or maybe not spoon fed, actually shoved down your throat,
Right.
is not real. And you can do you yourself are way more than what other people have told you are. And that's how you sort of took your quest or journey
I
just
think
recently.
so. And I'll wrap it up because we're a little past the hour now. Um, as a child, I totally remember so much, but number one, knowing I'm not from here, knowing that this was not my family, and knowing that this wasn't real. And I couldn't get the concept of, so where is reality if this isn't real? I knew this wasn't real.
Is that that's okay? So this is what I mean by, as a child,
Right.
you started from there. As a
Right.
child, that was your starting point. And
Right.
then obviously over time you were beaten down with that idea to believe that all that didn't exist. And then
Right.
that's when things really became nutty. But you had that remembering or remembrance that you were not from here. And so thus began your odyssey or your quest to remember.
Right.
And for a lot of people, they don't do that. They just kind of write the narrative the way other people tell them to write it. And nothing really ever comes out of that narrative that will support their individuality as a spiritual being. You didn't. You kept that alive. Many others keep it alive, but they keep it also under wraps because they're afraid to
Well,
talk
I
about
kept it under wraps. First of all, I come from New England. The Salem of witch child energy is still here.
it. I've been to that neck of the woods. It's
Yeah.
it's it's alive. It's alive and well.
Yeah,
It's well.
it's
Yeah,
alive and well. That could be a whole other conversation.
it could
Anyway,
be.
I'm going to take us off of Facebook. Thank you, everybody. I will in the comments put how you can connect and get in touch with Franco. He's an amazing man. I absolutely encourage you to start following him. Look for him on YouTube. This will be on YouTube, but he has a whole bunch of videos out there he's been doing with other people. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Franco. This has been
Thank you, Gail.
fantastic.
Thanks. It's been fun.
And
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process Podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.